What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Prospects Overload presented by Prospects Worldwide. I'm your host, Austin Farmer. You can find me on Twitter at AustinF0421. I'm joined here with Drake Mann and Milton Dauber. Guys, introduce yourselves.
My name's Milton Dauber. You can find me on Twitter at Milton Dauber. And thank you, Austin and Jake, for having me on today. I think we have a really good program for today, and it's going to be some big time names that we'll be talking about, and some controversial head-to-heads.
And hi, I am Drake Mann. You can follow me on Twitter at DrakeMann4. And Austin, this is really weird because last time, I hosted. So, now it's your turn. And, you're not putting anybody to sleep so far. So that's good.
Well, anyways, so our first segment here today will be the stat of the day, which will be presented by Drake. Drake, you want to hop into the stat of the day?
Yeah, I got you, Austin. And like I was saying, first time, I love fan graphs. And, this time I went with, instead of going the analytical route, I just went with something nice and simple that all of our followers can understand here. So there were only 4 prospects across all of minor league baseball who hit 10 plus doubles, triples, and home runs in 2021. And these are 4 guys that you would not even think would be on this list. Number 1 is Alek Thomas with 29 doubles, 12 triples, and 18 home runs. Cade Marlowe, 25, 10, and 26. Jake McCarthy with 14, 11, and 15. And the last but not least, Wander Javier with 15, 10, and 12. That is insane to me because I think I gave up on Wander Javier about a year ago. So I don't know what you guys think, but that list is pretty insane to me.
Yeah, I think it just shows you that, this yes, there are guys with big time name, hit with power tools, but there are always going to be some guys that are kind of on the radar who are just going to flat out purely hit in the minors, and they're going to work their way up through the levels. And maybe some of these guys are flukes, but I mean, put up double digits in each of the 3 major power categories. It's a pretty big accomplishment. So those are some names you just want to at least keep your eye on for the upcoming season.
Yeah, man, I totally agree. And like Alek Thomas is kind of a name that you would sort of expect on that list. Like he does have some speed. Marlowe, I mean, I liked him at AFL, but I would not have guessed that. McCarthy, and then Wander Javier, like, geez, where did that come from? All right.
I mean, Wander Javier has always had power. He just can't really hit for a high average, and he strikes out a lot. He's basically a Lazaro Armenteros, if you know what I mean.
I got you, Drake. So anyways, this next segment here will be the 1 versus 1 debate. And today's kind of a juicy one. We got Kyle Harrison versus Daniel Espino. And I'll start. I'll go with Daniel Espino as my take versus Kyle Harrison. Milton, who you got?
Oh, I mean, that's tough, but I think I'm going to have to go with Daniel Espino just because I mean, he's still really far off in terms of his control, but his stuff from the fastball to the slider he has is just so raw, and the potential they have, I think, is much, much higher than any other of Harrison's pitches.
And I agree with you, and that's why I let you go second, because I know Drake has a different opinion. Drake, you're up.
See, I'm gonna go with Kyle Harrison in this one because I just feel like Daniel Espino has a little too much injury risk for me, and he could be a reliever going forward. But Kyle Harrison has legit stuff, and I feel like what he was coming out of the draft to where he is now, I feel like he's going to turn into that at least number 2 to number 3 in the rotation. And Espino could get there, but I just think that the injury risk for me is a little too high.
Yeah, I did say Daniel Espino, and I do love his fastball, and I think that he's got really solid breaking stuff. I can't understand about the injury, but I think there's just a lot more upside, in my opinion, with Daniel Espino than Kyle Harrison. But I think we all have good takes there. Milton, you were going to say something?
Yeah, and no doubt, Drake has a very valid point. That there's a pretty high reliever risk with Espino. And there is injury history. He kind of reminds me in respect of 6 Sanchez, where you love the stuff. You get a great out probably on his fastball around a 70, 65, 70, and the slider is 60 as well. But you just don't know if you're going to get him for a full season. And, if you can, like I said, him at his best is much higher and a lot more potential than Harrison. But that wild card factor of when, how much are you going to get of him is definitely a cause for concern, but I still have to go Espino.
All right, and Drake, you have something to say?
No, I just said that's exactly how I feel. Like I said, Espino he has the stuff to be where Harrison is, but in my opinion, I think Kyle Harrison, especially for being a lefty, that helps him out a lot in this debate. But both are massive strikeout machines and have pretty amazing stuff for their ages.
All right, interesting take. All right, so this next segment that we got here is another interesting one that we did last time. It's going to be start, bench, cut. If you had 3 players to choose from, who would you start, who would you bench, and who would you cut? So the 3 players we got today are all from the 2021 draft, and they were all shortstops. So we got Marcelo Mayer, Jordan Lawler, and Khalil Watson. Drake, you want to go first?
Yeah, I just feel like you got to start Mayer, and Khalil Watson, you got to bench him, and Jordan Lawler, you got to cut. As much as I love Jordan Lawler, I feel like the injury that he sustained in the ACL, that might damage his tools a little bit. But to me, I think Mayer is the safest pick of these 3 to be a rising star going forward.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar with Drake on this. I think it's a very close debate between Watson and Mayo. I'm going to go start Watson. I'm going to bench Mayo, but I could honestly go either way with those 2. But Lawler, I personally didn't believe he was on the same level as those other 2 prep middle infielders in this past draft. I thought he was quite a bit below them and much more raw. Why I take Watson over Mayer in terms of starting is obviously I think the speed gives him a good bump, and I believe his tools are just a little bit more present than Mayer. Mayer, I think, is going to take a little bit longer. He's maybe a little bit more overall better in the all-around game, but Watson's tools speak a little bit louder, especially in the speed game.
Yeah, and see, I definitely struggled with this one because I do agree with your take on Watson. I am really high on Watson myself, but I think I would have to start Mayer, bench Watson, and cut Lawler. Yeah, I don't know. Something about Mayer, I just I don't know. It's really hard, but I think that Mayer presently, at least right now, has, I don't want to say more potential than Watson, because Watson definitely, I feel, has more potential, but I think that Mayer is a safer bet at the moment to start. So that's why I would start Mayer over Watson. So I think we all had really good takes there. All right, so yeah, our next segment will be what happened to him, which is a new one because we didn't do this the first episode. And I think we have a really good name for this segment today. And the name is Courtney Hawkins. I don't know I'm sure a lot of people don't know who Courtney Hawkins. He was a Corpus Christi Carroll High School grad, and he ended up being taken in the first round by the Chicago White Sox, and he had some of the highest upside in that draft. He was a really athletic kid, and if you go watch the draft from that year at MLB Network, Hawkins did an insane backflip, which really showed his athleticism. And yeah, I mean, Hawkins was really interesting because he passed up a scholarship to University of Texas to sign with the White Sox, and he actually ended up reaching AAA in 2019 and hit 23 bombs, but he never hit for average. He's a 226 lifetime minor league hitter, which is just really bad. It is worth noting, though, that in 2021, he played independent ball, and he did hit at 27 years old, and he hit 326 with 32 bombs and 392 plate appearances. So there is a chance that maybe a team will give him a second look. Drake, you have any information on Hawkins?
I think you covered a majority of it, but I got to disagree with you on the entire him coming back to the MLB, because the fact of the matter is, when you're an independent ball and you're 28 years old, there's a big I don't want to say like I think it's like a misstep for Courtney Hawkins because I remember I posted about some guy from the what's it called? The Santa Fe Fuego. And I said, oh, how has this guy not been picked up? But the guy was already 25, 26 years old. So a lot of teams don't want to go back through and pay that money to go and try to, develop this player again type of deal. That's just my feeling on it though.
Yeah, and I mean it is. I mean to Austin's point though, he did play in the Atlantic League, which is the direct independent league partner of the MLB, and it is the highest level of independent league ball out there. The Santa Fe Fuego is in the Pecos League, and that's much lower. So to his point, it is a higher level of independent ball league, but this is, I mean, you mentioned he got up to AAA in 2019. That was after a stint in the Atlantic League in 2018, where he did put up some impressive numbers. But just, the idea that he was in pro ball in the White Sox organization up until 2018, and he left for independent ball when he was released, and then he came back in 2019. The idea that he's going to get picked up again at this point, I just think, 28, already 2 stints with 2 different organizations and never really panning out with either one of them. I'm sorry, it was San Francisco and Cincinnati in 2019. So make that 3 organizations, haven't panned out with any of them yet. It just seems so unlikely that anything is going to happen of him.
Yeah, and I mean, I get what I was really trying to say was like maybe someone will give him a shot in the minor leagues. I didn't necessarily mean like he would get a shot in the bigs, but yeah, those are very valid points, guys.
I still think for that, because we're already seeing a fight between owners and players about paying minor leaguers. I don't think that they'd want to shell out money on a 28-year-old right now. That's another point right there, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean these are all really good takes, guys, and yeah, I mean, any of us could be right, any of us could be wrong.
I have one more thing to say too.
Yeah, go for it,
boys. I think that we need to get 3 tickets to the Lexington Legends. That's where he was. So I think we need to have a road trip, boys.
Hey, I mean, listen, Lexington, you got Kentucky, but it comes over into my area in Northeast. You got Long Island, Maryland, Lancaster, PA. So never get the inkling to have a road trip. Come up, visit me in Jersey.
Okay, so you're gonna sit there and pay. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the free tickets, man. That's very generous of you.
Yeah, I'll just reach into my gigantic Scrooge McDuck pocketbook of money and take some gold coins and just throw it over for you guys.
Heck
hey,
yeah,
totally
man.
Awesome, man. Love it.
That's lit.
Cool.
All right, Drake. So this next segment, you said last time, is going to make a lot of people mad. And I mean, no one really commented in the last video. So we're hoping that maybe eventually we'll start getting more interaction. And then, people will start voicing their opinion as well. Because this take will be overrated, underrated. And, we're always going to piss some fan base off. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to say my most overrated prospect in the game today is Robert Pawson. That dude, every time I've watched him, he has never hit a ball hard. I'm just straight up going to say it. I've never been impressed with this bat. Throughout 2021, I watched some MiLB games. I watched the footage that we have of him from Instructs, and he's just never impressed me. And I don't think that he's going to cut it. And the A's spent big bucks on him, and I think they made a mistake. And for my underrated, I'm going to go with Eggy Rosario. And yes, that is how you pronounce it. It's spelled like E-guy, but it's pronounced Eggy. Like, that dude is a 50 hit, 35 power, so he's not going to be all that flashy with the bat at all. I really like his glove. I think he's a really good defender. And Milton, you're up.
Yeah, that's a good take there, Austin. I'm going to go a little bit more up front with my overhyped, and I'm going to say Jason Dominguez here. For a kid, I'm not going to deny his raw tools are there. He has a potential to be a 60 power, 60 speed guy, maybe 50 contact, but he definitely has some raw tools. But for the amount of hype, and I think this more falls on the shoulders of social media and those who are talking about him rather than fans. But he is just, I mean, he's 19 and he batted around 260 in A ball last year. And you have some people considering him the top prospect of all in baseball. And it just, I can't see where anything is feasible for that. Maybe in a couple years because of the raw skill set, but he is nowhere close to being a top 15 prospect in baseball. He hasn't even played a full season here in the States yet. So I would say he's way overhyped to be calling him anywhere near a top prospect in baseball. It's way too early to make that determination. So yeah, and then going for my underhyped is a player I've been really, really big on for a couple of years now is Richie Palacios out of the Guardian system. Richie right now is a guy who's at 50, maybe grades out around 55 contact. Potentially could be a 60 contact level guy, but last year in AAA for the Guardians, he batted 297, 404, and 471. Only hit 7 homers. Most of his power are line hustle doubles, but the guy is going to hit for an extremely high average. He also does steal a lot of bases. He had 20 stolen bases in 23 attempts. He sorry that I got a notification. He is one of the hardest working individuals in the minor leagues. His brother Josh Palacios is in the Blue Jays system as well. Both are trained by Jason Ferber out of New York, and I mean, he has just hit consistently every step of the way in the minors. He's a career 317, 409, 492 slasher in the minors so far. And I think next year at age 25, he will make his MLB debut and he could become a very productive top of the order bat for the Guardians.
That's a lot of research you did there, man, and I love it. I love the depth that you put into it, and we'll move on to Drake now.
Now, first things first, Yankees fans, do not unfollow because he just said that. Okay? Just please don't. We love every single one of you. All right, so my overrated is it may be a little too early to call this, but I got to go with Eric Pena. I saw him at ACL, and he just didn't look what I was expecting him to look. He was swinging his stuff in the dirt. I didn't see any power potential. He didn't hit a single ball well, and like I said, his plate discipline was terrible. I just don't think that you can call him, a top 10 prospect yet. I don't think you can call him, the best international prospect in the Royal system. I just don't think you can do that yet. I mean, he could prove me wrong, but again, I mean, after his 161 with 256 on base percentage in the ACL, I just think that it's a little bit too much hype. I know that he was injured for a little bit, so that might have derailed his season a little bit, but who knows with Eric Pena. And then my underrated is actually our first pitcher that we've talked about, and I'm going with the Orioles, Drew Rom, 22 years old, and all he's done is had success. I mean, he has a career 289 or 2.89 ERA and 270 strikeouts, 233.2 innings pitched. And yet I rarely hear about him in the Orioles system. And I get that stat scouting and stuff like that, but Drew Rom is my name for the underrated.
Yeah, and Drake, I think your overrated brings us into our next section of the day, which is going to be talking about the international free agent market, and just how extremely hard and different that is from the amateur scouting side of things. When you scout an amateur domestically here in the United States, you get kids, 18 to around 21 years old in the draft, and there's a lot of film and a lot of events where people in our industry get to see them. And there's a lot of constant eyes on them. And in the international side, it's very different. These kids are making verbal agreements at 14, 15. There's not, thankfully, due to MLB's efforts, there has been more high profile scouting events and showcases for international free agents, but a lot of this is backfield work and scouting, very grassroots type scouting that's done. And you have to make a decision on a kid at 15, 16 years old. You essentially, 2 to 5 years before you would have to make the same decision for a domestic kid. And it can be really tough sometimes. And a lot of times these kids can just not pan out.
Yeah, Milton, what you just said, like a lot of like these guys getting picked up, it is social media and it is video. So, sometimes for a scout, you go see them live and you see video, and the video you're saying, holy cow, this kid's something special. You go see him live and you're like, oh wow, what did I see in that video that made me like him? Maybe I don't like him anymore. So it is a lot of risk and a lot of, just unsureness, if you will.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, those are really good points. And yeah, it's a lot harder to find like international film, like both y'all said, and a lot of it is hype based. But yeah, Drake. Back to Drew Rom. Like, I really agree with you. Like, he has a lot of upside, and I think that he's just getting overlooked by a lot of people. And I think that he could be a really solid pitcher at the big league level. But yeah. Anyways, you guys have already jumped to it. But the next segment is going to be the international prospect signings that just happened. And we're each going to talk about our favorite prospects that signed from the international signings. I guess I'll go first. The big noticeable one for me was Christian Vaquero, who signed with the Nats for approximately $4.9 million. He's got from what I've seen, he's got a powerful bat and can drive the ball. My next favorite one will be Brian Acuna, and if that last name sounds familiar, he is the little brother of Ronald and Luis Angel Acuna. He's only 16 years old, and he already signed for $650,000. And speaking of brothers, another one that I really liked was Elian Soto, who signed with the Nats. Hopefully he'll play alongside with Juan Soto, his older brother, and he only signed for $50,000, which I thought was wow. Anyways, Drake, who are your favorites?
Yeah, listen, there was only one guy that really stuck out to me so far, and I might be a little biased because I am a Cardinals fan, but the Cardinals signing Won Bin Cho out of South Korea. I've watched some video on this guy. There's some serious pop in his bat. And I saw him out in center field in a video on YouTube, and that dude can cover some ground. I think that at 18 years old, he has plenty of time to develop, and the Cardinals are going to be careful with him, cautious with him. But I do want to see him with a wood bat. That'll be interesting. But there is some definite power potential, in my opinion. And I think he's going to be an absolute stud in St. Louis.
All right, going with the Cardinals pick. I love it.
Well, for me, for me, the big name, in my opinion, for this international signing class was William Bergolla. He signed with the Phillies for approximately $2.2 million. That took up about 40% of the entire signing bonus for the international free agents for the Phillies. So they were very, very big on him. Bergolla is the son of William Bergolla Sr., who was a former Major League farmhand and brief-time Major Leaguer for the Reds organization. I think William Jr. Has potential to kind of grade out 55s around the board pretty well. He looks probably the smoothest at short out of anyone in this international free agent class. To that note, I thought that Arias, who was the big time signing with the Yankees, I thought he didn't look great defensively at short. I thought Bergolla definitely has the highest potential for anyone to stick at short from this draft class. But here's the thing. With the international signings, I mean, like we were touching on earlier, it's much, much more harder to figure out how these guys are going to pan out. You can look at a guy like Gabriel Moreno for the Blue Jays, who signed for a mere $10,000 and was on no top list for an international signing class. And now he's probably, a top 5 catching prospect in all of baseball. So you really just don't know.
That's a really good take, Milton. And so I really liked everyone's picks for the international prospect signing segment. So we're gonna finish this up here with Milton. So this is gonna be focused on your top 5 favorite prospects in the game. We're gonna do this for all our writers on the staff. So you're up. Let's do your top 5.
Yeah, thanks, Austin. So I think 1 and 2 aren't really going to be a shock here. Adley Rutschman's my number 1 overall. He has the potential to be a plus defender behind the plate, throw out 35+% of runners, looks pretty smooth behind the plate, receiving and blocking the ball. But his bat is really where he stands out, especially for the position. Switch hitter, a little bit more pop in the left-hand side, but he can absolutely destroy left-handed pitching from the right-handed side. and he is going to be probably one of the better offensive catchers in baseball when he gets up, most likely next year. I think he has a really good shot to make the team out of spring training. Number 2 for me is going to be Bobby Whit. He is just an all-around stud. To be honest, I wasn't big on him coming out of the draft. I was actually much more bigger on TJ Abrams. But Whit has just proved me wrong. He is absolutely dominated this year between AA and AAA for the Royals. Yeah, between AA and AAA this year, he slashed 290, 361, 575 with 33 homers and 29 stolen bases. He grades out, as you will see on our prospect rankings, which will come out in a couple months. He grades out 60 across the board. And the thing is that he could still develop some more power too. I mean, he's still pretty skinny frame at 6'1", 200. He could probably add a good 10, 15 pounds. And I think he is a generational talent. And he can be an all-star for years to come if he truly hits his potential. Number 3, I have Hunter Green. I think we all remember Hunter Green coming out of the 2017 draft class. He was a huge name. Getting up to 102 miles an hour in high school. He struggled his first 2 years in pro ball. Then he had Tommy John in 2019, and obviously 2020 with COVID. But he bounced back in a huge way this year. 3.3 ERA in 106 innings. Struck out 139 batters. He definitely, without a doubt, has the best fastball in all the minor leagues. He is consistently sitting 98 to 100 miles per hour with touch 101, 102. And he commands the pitch very well, especially up in the zone. He has 2 distinct breaking balls and a cutter and a slider. Slider, I think, is the better pitch, but he has 2 unique breaking balls and the cutter and the slider. He gets pretty good vertical and horizontal depth to the slider, but the cutter does offer a different look for hitters and is unique in its break compared to the slider. He still kind of is developing a feel for his changeup, and his command can be a little erratic at times, but I think he is going to be somewhere in the starting rotation for the Reds by mid-year next year. Number 4, I have Nick Gonzalez. He was the number 7th overall selection in the 2020 draft, and I think anyone who knows anything about amateur baseball just knows how dominant he was at the collegiate level for New Mexico State. So in 2018, 2019, Gonzalez led the NCAA in hitting for New Mexico State, which is a mid-major, and there were some serious questions about his hit tool. And then he goes on to win the MVP of the Cape Cod League in the summer of 2019, and just smashed in 2020 before there was an end to the season due to COVID. In his first year of pro ball this year, he absolutely dominated. 302, 385, 565. The power was a little bit of a surprise, as I don't think a lot of people kind of saw him as someone who was going to hit more, who was going to slash more than around 480 to 500 in the power. So that's kind of good to see that the power is developing. Really good for him. He's a really good eye to play, very laid back and mature plate approach, very smooth through the zone. He did strike out a little bit than most of us would have expected. Around 30% clip this past summer. It was good to see, though, that this fall in the Arizona Fall League, I know both Drake and Austin got to see him, and they had rave reviews of him. He batted 380, had on base 483, and slugged 550. And the strikeout rate was much lower, kind of what we expected to see it as, of around 20%. And Gonzalez is going to be a guy who has the potential to bat around 300 every season. I'm not really sure how the power is going to translate to the majors, but he should be good for around 16 to 20 home runs in a full season. And then for me, my number 5 prospect in all baseball, and I may get some flack for this, but it's going to be Anthony Boppy coming out of the Yankee system. And Boppy skyrocketed our prospect list this past summer. When he was selected in 2019 with the 32nd pick in the first round, there were a lot of head scratchers, including myself. I actually hail from the area of New Jersey where Boppy played high school ball. He played high school ball at Del Barton High School. He played alongside another first round pick in Jack Leidu. So to say that their team in 2019 was disgusting was a little bit of an understatement. But when he was drafted 32nd overall, it took a lot of people by surprise. From what we heard, the Yankees initially wanting to pick Leidu with their first round pick. And kind of last minute, he said, I'm going to honor that commitment to Vanderbilt. And number two, and when the spot came up, the second guy on the list was Volpe. He did struggle to start his pro career for the Yankees in the FCL. Volpe struggled in his pro debut for the single A Appalachian League for the Yankees in 2019, where he batted a dismal 215. However, it is important to note that he was struggling with mononucleosis. And anyone who's had mono, I don't know if you guys have, I have had it before. It sucks. Your body feels so weak. So I would give him some credit, some slack there for his 2019 performance. But from 2019, at the end of the season to 2021, he trained extremely hard. From my contacts in New Jersey, he was putting in a lot of work and added some weight and some strength during the summer of 2020. And he definitely showed out big time this past year. I think he won Yankees Player of the Year for the minor leagues on the offensive side of things after he slashed 294, 423, and 604 with 27 bombs and 33 stolen bases. And it's important to note, Boppy is not a big guy. He's only around 5'11", 180, but he generates so much rotational power with his hips and gets great extension through the ball that he is going to hit for around 20 homers each year, which is great for second baseman. And I do say second baseman because while he does play something, he did have him at short. He was drafted as a shortstop. He's going to move over to second base. There's no doubt in my mind. The arm strength just isn't there for him at short, but he will play around an average to slightly above average second base. The defensive actions are there. The baseball IQ and first step are there for him to play a solid defensive second base. Just the arm strength isn't there for short, but he is going to be a pretty good offensive second baseman. And don't expect him to see him in the show next year. We did get some news recently, thanks to our friend Matt Heckman, that he will be starting the year off in Double-A for the Yankees. So there is a potential he could reach Triple-A by the end of the year, and I think he will continue to hit on a similar level to the way he did last year. And that rounds out my top 5 for me.
All right, I love it. That was really, really in depth. And you did mention Matt Heckman just now. You and Matt are our newest scouts on the team, so y'all have done a lot of good work for us. And welcome aboard to the club. And so we're going to close out this episode here. I will say you did mention that our prospect list we're going to come out with in a couple months. Yeah, we're working hard on those. We're going to try and get them by spring training. Thanks for joining me, Drake. Thank you for joining me, Milton. And we'll see you all on the next one. Peace, everybody.
Peace,
Thanks,
y'all.
Austin.